In 1943, the notorious Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp was a site of unimaginable horror. As trains packed with Jewish families arrived, the platform erupted into chaos. Nazi guards with snarling dogs barked orders, separating men from women and children. The air was thick with fear and the acrid smell of burning flesh from nearby crematoria. Among the arrivals were twins, soon to become the focus of Dr. Josef Mengele's brutal experiments. The selection process was a moment of sheer terror. Dr. Mengele, dressed in his white coat, stood at the ramp, casually pointing left or right with a flick of his hand. Left meant forced labor, right, the gas chambers. Twins were pulled from their families, their unique genetic traits making them valuable to Mengele's twisted research. Parents screamed as their children were torn away, their cries lost in the cold efficiency of the Nazi machine. Life in the barracks was a daily struggle for survival. The twins were crammed into overcrowded wooden bunks, their striped uniforms hanging off their malnourished bodies. Food was scarce and disease rampant. Guards patrolled constantly, their presence a reminder of the ever-present threat of punishment or death. Despite the horrors, the twins clung to each other, their bond a fragile lifeline in a world designed to break them. Mengele's so-called clinic was a facade of medical care masking unimaginable cruelty. Twins were brought to a sterile room filled with medical tools where Mengele greeted them with a chilling smile. Promises of extra food or safety were lies to ensure compliance. The room, clean and orderly, contrasted starkly with the suffering it concealed. Here, the twins became mere subjects in Mengele's grotesque experiments. The blood draw experiments were among the first horrors the twins endured. Strapped to tables, they were subjected to repeated and excessive blood extraction without anesthesia. Mengele sought to study genetic similarities, but the process was agonizing. Many twins fainted or became severely anemic. The vials of blood were labeled meticulously, a cold contrast to the suffering they represented. Mengele's experiments escalated with forced exposure to infectious diseases. Twins were injected with pathogens like typhus or tuberculosis to observe their reactions. Those who fell ill were isolated in quarantine cells, left to suffer without treatment. Mengele documented their decline, comparing the progression in each twin. Many died in agony, their bodies discarded like laboratory waste. Mengele's obsession with racial pseudoscience led to grotesque skeletal measurements. Using calipers, he meticulously recorded skull shapes, eye distances, and limb lengths. Chalk marks on the walls tracked growth, while twins stood motionless, treated as objects rather than humans. These measurements fed Nazi eugenics propaganda, a twisted attempt to justify their atrocities with false science. Psychological torture was another tool in Mengele's arsenal. Twins were separated and placed in dark rooms, forced to stare at mirrors to confuse their sense of identity. Guards recorded their reactions, studying the breakdown of their mental states. Some twins were told their sibling had died, only to be reunited later, a cruel game designed to shatter their spirits. As the war neared its end, some twins attempted desperate acts of resistance. Whispered plans to sabotage equipment or escape were met with brutal retaliation. Guards beat those caught, making examples of them to deter others. Yet the twins' defiance symbolized a flicker of hope, a refusal to be completely broken by Mengele's cruelty. In January 1945, Soviet soldiers liberated Auschwitz. The gates swung open, revealing emaciated survivors, including the twins. But freedom came with scars, physical and psychological, that would never fully heal. Many twins spent years searching for lost siblings or grappling with the trauma of Mengele's experiments. Their stories remain a haunting testament to the depths of human cruelty.